Welcome back to Beyond the Sermon with Hyde Park United Methodist Church in Tampa, Florida. I'm Mat Hotho, the Director of Production and Online Engagement.
And I'm Sally Campbell-Evans, the Pastor for Congregational Care.
So Sally, you just preached a sermon all about Acts 4, which is like this pinnacle moment where the church is at its best, we could think of in the New Testament times, right? We haven't gotten to all the stuff with Paul arguing with the churches in Corinth or Galatia and all that kind of stuff, right? The church is humming.
That's right.
And you're like, man, if only the church could get back to being that Acts 4 type of church. So one thing that stuck in my head was a quote that actually came up on one of our staff meetings. It was the Maya Angelou quote, right? People remember how they made you feel. They don't remember exactly what you said. And you were telling me that you kind of think about that sometimes in church world too.
Oh yeah, so true. You know, we argue a lot or the perception of the church is that we argue about politics, or we argue about committee meetings or the budget, or can we change the carpet? And years from now, people are not going to remember that.
Yeah.
But if they think about the church, they're going to remember that somebody brought them a meal when they got home from the hospital, or that someone held their hand when they were sitting in the chemo lab, or that someone helped them get a voucher for their kid to go to a school nearby, or some paid their rent. I mean, those are the kinds of things that I think people will remember. And that's an outward facing church that sees need in the community, notices suffering, and actually responds in tangible ways.
Yeah, and is present with the community through that.
Yeah. It's not one and done. We're in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, that even goes to that bigger idea of like, what does missions look like in a more modern sense? It isn't just like white savior missions, right? But as missions that are trying to build relationships and make a difference in a community. So you had one example of when that happened.
Oh yeah, as I was writing the sermon, I kept thinking of an example from our last church when we lived in Tallahassee. And early on, we got there and we were meeting this young family. They had twins and a single, just like we do. But their kids are younger than ours. And they said, you know why we love this church so much? And I said, I'd love to hear. We're brand new to your community and we're going to be your pastor, so we'd love to know. And they said, well, the wife was in the hospital with these premature babies, and it was touch and go. And, there's a lot of drama around that. And they had just bought a new house and they were trying to get the house ready. And when they finally got home from the hospital, their Sunday school class had sodded the whole front yard, had landscaped that, it was just such a gift that saw their need, that if they had been not in the hospital, the husband would have been working on this, getting ready for them to move into the house. And I just have always thought, what a beautiful example of the church kind of seeing your need and walking with you, because they were in relationship together.
Yeah, I love that example. And maybe this is going off in a tangent. You and I both listened to a podcast. We don't have to name the podcaster, but we both listened to it. And there was an episode that this person did about 6 months ago on community building and how communities gather. And I think about that example you told of like, these people went into someone else's home and kind of helped lay sod and prepare a home. And for how many of us would that feel like, oh, well, I couldn't possibly let somebody do that for me. Maybe because of a rugged sense of individualism, right? Or a sense of privacy in some odd way that is maybe closing us off from community.
I think so.
Do you think about that?
I do. Every once in a while, we'll say, hey, we have a meal we'd like to deliver to you. And someone will say, oh, no, give it to someone who really needs it. Well, we're talking to you because we think you need it. I mean, it may not be it may just be a moment to say, we realize you're going through a stressful time and you could use a little encouragement. It's not that you're in dire straits. It's just, we want you to know we see you. The same way with the card or a visit. Oh, no, go see someone else who really needs it. And I think that does sort of silo us from one another.
Yeah, it's like at some point our culture got uncomfortable receiving help or receiving, dare I say, grace, a gift, something freely given.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like, well, I can't be given that.
I'll be beholden to you.
Sure. Yeah. I'll owe you something. Or maybe it even brings up feelings of being less than, right? Just like you were saying a moment ago, right? I'm not telling you that you owe me anything or that you or that there's anything wrong with you. I just want to do something for you.
Right. Because I see you. I see your need or your, it's not necessarily a big need. It's just, I see you as as someone who could use just a little support.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all could use a little support all throughout our lives.
Yeah. And so that's this, in the Acts 4 passage, this was the church as being the epitome of the church. And you were talking about in your sermon about how it's so hard to do that nowadays. You were also saying something else about how the church should be the place where we are also able to reach across our differences, right? Not that the church is known for arguing all the time per se, or being so political that it's pushing people away, but more that the church should be the place where it's okay to disagree within certain acceptable boundaries in some ways, right? I'm reminded of another podcast that our podcast friend had. We brought on someone who does this organization, Better Angels. This is all about how, kind of riffing off of Lincoln's second inaugural address, I believe. The idea of, our better angels. How can we have conversations that bring out our better angels? And I think the church is a place that is best and is healthiest. Can model that. Absolutely.
And there are not many places in society like the church. In fact, I can't think of another one where we're intergenerational. All kinds of folks walk in the door, and this is the place where we can dialogue and get to know each other, our neighbor, and like you said, disagree if we disagree, but speak our truth.
Yeah.
And have it honored, I guess is a way to say it. I hadn't thought of this till something you said, but when I was in my freshman year of college, I was very close to my youth directors when I was in high school. And so when I went to college, my worldview began to open and change. And I came home and I remember getting into a big disagreement with my youth directors. And we're still friends to this day, which says a lot. And but we sent, I don't remember who sent it first, but one of us sent to the other, which I kept on my wall for a long time, a big handwritten poster that said, "Christians can disagree with love." And I just, that's true. But we sometimes when we disagree, we think they don't like us and I can't be in the relationship with them anymore, or we cut off instead of working through. And that's the church needs to do that.
Yeah, I think you had something written on your sheet of paper that we were reviewing before this. The church is not about uniformity, it's about unity. Yeah.
The Spirit, the church is full, the Acts 4 church was full of all kinds of different walks of life, of folks, and it was the Spirit working through them. It didn't just make them all the same. It kept their individualism, but they were of united purpose, the unity of purpose, as compared to cookie cutter. You don't all have to be the same.
Yeah.
I think that's still true today.
So as we're having this conversation in the middle of a series, actually wrapping up a series on invitation, one thing that I'm taking away from just this conversation right now, and I'd love for you to reflect on it as well, is like this idea that invitation isn't a one-size-fits-all thing.
Correct.
Right? We all have our own ways that we feel led to invite, the communities that we're in where we feel led to invite. I was actually having a conversation with someone after a workout today where she shared that like she's new to the area, which is one of those triggers, right? And then she asked, "What do you do for work?" Gets me every time, right? And I told her, I work at a church. And then I honestly kind of stumbled through it a little bit because I got to talking about being United Methodist. And she goes, "Oh, you mean the one in Dunedin?" And I go, "Well, that's one of many. United Methodism is a big, huge thing. And I would say we're more progressive of the church." I was kind of like she had shared some stuff with me that I knew if she was looking for a church, it would be a church that was progressive, open-minded, those kind of things. And I wish I'd found the word open-minded. I think what I'm getting at here is invitation is hard. What I want you to hear me saying is invitation is hard. Even someone who works at a church stumbled through that conversation. And yet I could tell through the conversation that she was still hungry to hear about a church experience that was different than what she had grown up with.
Yeah. And I think practice makes it easier to invite people for anything, right?
Yeah.
To share, and it doesn't have to be this dramatic story. It's just share part of your story and say, "I go to this church. it's meaningful to me. When I was lonely, I had friends there. When I hear people say this all the time, when I was going through this hard time, this group from the church surrounded me. That's why I'm part of this community. And I think if we just share a little bit of our story about why this church means so much to us, people want that. I think people are hungry for that. They're hungry for connection and belonging and hope and authentic love.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect. We are not perfect. But together, we're trying to play our role.
Yeah. And I think when we do that, we get really close to living more like the Acts 4 church that you were talking about in your sermon.
I really hope so. That's what our goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sally.
You betcha.
And thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Sermon. You can always go deeper with Hyde Park United Methodist by going to our Next Steps page, hydeparkumc.org/next steps. You can find a small group to join. We've got summer pop-ups happening all summer long, little one-off classes that you can attend online or in person, where you can connect more with our community. You can worship with us online, or you can come attend in person. I'd love to meet you. I'm Mat Hotho.
I'm Sally Campbell-Evans.
And we'll see you next time.